Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. What's your secret that could literally ruin your life if it came out? 2.5 years ago I was in dire financial straits, so I sold my home to keep my struggling business afloat. I neglected to tell the owners that they have an 800 square feet bunker on the property that I built about 7 years ago. The bunker that I've called home since I sold it. The entrance to it is well hidden, but I still come and go very early, very late in the day. I'm a single man who keeps to himself. I'm now in a situation where I could move somewhere else, but I love this hidden paradise so much. I can't bring myself to type it out again, so pasted the relevant part from the other place I posted this. I can't promise coherence, even after all these years it still cuts deep, and I'm probably going to wind up rambling like I did the first and only other time I talked about it. 10 years ago, when I was 7, my parents worked shift work in the military. Since their schedules didn't match up very well, it wasn't uncommon for them both to be working a 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. As such, I had a babysitter. She was an old friend of my mother's, a wonderful woman. She was the type who seemed to have the compulsion to feed everyone who came through her door. Matronly is the word I'm aiming for, I think. Anyway, she and her husband, along with their adopted daughter, were Christian. I tagged along to church with them a couple of times, but it only furthered my atheistic leanings, which had already been in place. In time I politely turned down the offer to accompany them, instead staying home with their adopted son. At the time he was about as old as I'm now. We shared similar interests, namely, playing Super Nintendo games and listening to loud music. Since the house was free of anyone to complain about it, we did so with abandon. I honestly don't remember how it started anymore. To the best of my recollection, he asked me to go with him into the bathroom to show me something. I was 7, naive, and he was a cool guy I looked up to. Naturally, I followed without question. The first time, he showed me what masturbating was. At the time, of course, it was just how to get your thing hard, but whatever. A few times after that, we'd do that when the others left, then go back to our gaming. Something always clawed at me, the feeling that something was wrong. He was older than me, though. And he was cool. It must be what the cool kids did, right? Slowly but surely, though, he escalated things. At first, it was mutual masturbation. I still didn't really know what was going on, but I jerked him and he jerked me. It couldn't stop there, of course, and eventually built to him blowing me. After that happened a few times, he wanted me to return the favor. Again, I still didn't really grasp what was going on, but I tried. I hated the taste and wound up refusing. After that happened a couple of times, he would force me. I just started to go blank, I guess. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't think or feel. I just let him use my mouth until he was satisfied and would re-jerk into tissue to finish himself off. This went on for a while until my babysitter began to grow suspicious. He had made me promise not to tell anyone about our special time, and at that age, a promise was something you didn't break for anything. That said, I just denied anything being wrong anytime my babysitter asked. Eventually, she grew too concerned and, despite knowing nothing for certain, had my mom find an alternative sitter. Since then, he's gone through therapy. He admitted to having issues, apparently, but never spoke a word of what actually happened. I'm pretty sure it ducked me up good, honestly. I never really properly appreciated the deep scars sexual abuse leaves on a victim until I looked back on my life with that in mind. I buried it for years and tried to pretend I was normal, but I was definitely different. I was a lot more melancholy, and had a few streaks of depression. I've never really been too certain of my sexuality. I'm scared to death of sex, honestly, and I think it's because part of me is afraid that I'll wind up just as abusive as he was. It helped a lot to open up to my girlfriend. It doesn't haunt me like it used to, and I don't always feel like such a freak. It's helped strengthen our trust, and she's agreed to take things as slowly as I need to be comfortable. I've since stopped feeling so totally emasculated. as well, and it's almost something of a joke to me now. I know, forced intercourse isn't funny. The thing is though, you've got to be able to joke about it, even if only to yourself. If you can laugh at something, you can move past it. I can't help but chuckle when I'm arguing with someone and they tell me to suck a dick or something to that effect. I can laugh at my own pain, so I can move past it. I don't think I'll ever be who I might have been if it hadn't happened, but I'm okay with that. Realistically, I can't even say I'd change it if I could. I'm fit, intelligent, in love, and generally happy with my life. It was terrible, yes, and traumatic, but at least I know this path can lead to happiness. Take the evil you know, right? Anyway, that's my story. It's long, incoherent, and doesn't really have a proper end, but take it how you will. TL, Doctor, played Nintendo, sucked dick, everything turned out okay. Background: I'm a guy in my late 20s who was taken into care aged 7. Everyone around me already knows that I was brought up by foster families because I had a shit early childhood. I deliberately keep it vague and say stuff like I'd rather not go into it so that people will just assume I was abused in some way and they'll stop asking about it. The truth is that for the first 7 years of my life, I was brought up as a girl by my psycho birth mother who really wanted a daughter and didn't let the snag of giving birth to a boy stop her from trying to raise one. She was a pretty successful professional in the legal field, not entirely sure what, and had me via an anonymous sperm donor from a fertility clinic. She found out I was a boy at a late ultrasound and then moved across the country, gave birth to me at home and continued to move about until I was 5 or so. It was just the two of us all my life. We had contact with other people, of course, but they rarely got very close. I had lots of friends but was always supervised. I found out way after that my mother's strong puritanical Christianity was a lie she used to explain why she was so strict about me being private and never letting anyone see me get changed or anything. I just accepted all of this as a fact, having never been told anything different. I was sent to a religious school for girls and had a really great childhood. I was a bit of a tomboy and played with Lego and toy animals, rather than dolls and stuff, but that's not unusual and no one ever questioned I was a girl, even me. I knew about men and women but had never really seen much of naked people. My mother never ever spoke to me about it, but I kinda had the impression that when I grew up and got boobs and stuff, my dick would kinda fall off or something and I would be a woman, and other kids would keep their dicks and they'd be men. I dunno, to be honest, I never really thought about it anyway. I carried on with my happy girlhood and had a bunch of friends and everything was great until I was 7 and a teacher accidentally spilled a cup of hot coffee over me at school. The liquid soaked through my clothes and was scalding me, so the staff immediately stripped me out of my dress and underwear to get the hot coffee away from my skin. And then they found out. The cops were called and I got taken to speak with who I guess would be social services. They asked me a bunch of questions about life at home and stuff. Meanwhile, my mother was taken in for questioning too. She refused to acknowledge me as male and insisted I was her daughter. Because she was, you know, delusional and stuff, I wasn't allowed to go back home but got put with a foster family and went through loads of therapy and stuff. The worst part was that literally overnight, I lost everything. My mother, my home, all my toys, all my clothes, school, so lost all my friends. They cut all my hair off and told me I wasn't a girl anymore. It was really traumatic. The first foster home wasn't that great. They had 3 boys already and going from a sheltered religious-only child upbringing to a rough and tumble testosterone-filled environment was really difficult. They tried to force me to be masculine and I was just too confused about what they wanted. Anything girly was reprimanded and I felt so lost and alone because nothing I did was right. I tried to commit suicide when I was 11 and again at 13 because I didn't feel I fit in anywhere. After the second attempt, they moved me to a different foster family, which was awesome. I consider them to be my parents. They actually stood up for me. The first thing was that they let me grow my hair. From when I got taken into care, they buzzed my hair short, and I hated it. They always had to hold me down and do it forcibly while I was crying and fighting. My new parents flatly refused to do it and said that loads of boys had long hair. They also let me quit karate and football and take up swimming and jazz dance. Since I'd been in care, no one had ever stood up for my right to choose what activities to do or how to dress before. It was amazing. In the end, I came out of it with a pretty healthy gender identity. I'm a guy, but not the most butch guy ever. But I'm fine with that. I went through school and got my degree, and have a pretty good job and an amazing, supportive wife. Everything looks great. But I can never speak about my early childhood, and how I grew up as a little girl. TL, doctor. I'm a guy and let people believe I was raised in care because I was abused when in fact I had a great childhood, except that my mother tried to raise me as a girl. Edit, holy crap. I never expected such a response. Have finally remembered the password I used for this account and am answering any questions I find. Thank you, Reddit. Buried comment, but here goes. Not life-ruining but makes me feel like shit every time I think about it. As I've told Reddit before, I have a blind brother. When we were young, I used to get so frustrated at all the extra attention he received and how I had to be more responsible with my sibling than my peers. So, when my brother and I would go play, go to the store, or just generally go anywhere without adults, I would abandon him somewhere unfamiliar to him. Then, I would stand off quietly and watch the anxiety set in as he tried to figure out where he was and what was going on. Also, I was really intelligent as a child and knew that was my ticket to attention. When I would help my brother with his homework, I would teach him all the wrong answers, so that I could continue being the smarter sibling. Today, my brother is my best friend. He goes to college and lives by himself. He's become one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. I'm trying to make it up to him now by being the best big sister ever, but I still feel so guilty at how I found him to be a burden when I was a kid. Edit, update. I immediately called my brother after posting this and caught him while he was walking to a study group. I told him about my guilt and he laughed. He understands how frustrating it must have been. He told me that all of the good things I have done as a sister completely overshadow anything bad I did and that he loves me more than anything. I'm glad I spoke with him and I encourage others on here to talk to someone if they can. It wouldn't ruin my life per se, because there are people in my life who are aware of this, but I did try to kill myself once. At my college. Was going to swallow I think Tylenol and a handle of vodka, intending to induce organ failure plus alcohol poisoning. I ended up about to swallow, but the cheap alcohol made me so aware of my actions that I spit it out and ran to my friend's room. I stole the alcohol from him, and it's the only time I've knowingly stolen something, to apologize. This was maybe 2 years ago. I ended up having to take a year off, and was forced to explain the situation to the adults in my life. For the first time, they found out that I had been sexually assaulted by my older brothers for about 5 years, and that I had been suffering from depression for about 9 years. They did not understand. Didn't understand how I could be broken up over something that happened years ago, convinced that I was just trying to weasel myself out of my dream college, or that I am too stupid to handle it. And when I finally convinced them to let me see a shrink, all they spoke about was how pointless therapy was, and wanted to know how long this would last. I ended up returning to and then leaving college again, once again due to depression. Now the verbal abuse that I faced growing up has increased tenfold. Almost every day is some sort of argument, with me hearing about how I fucked up my life, and that I'm a jackass and a fool. I desperately want to leave, but I have nowhere to go. I have no job and no money, so I can't afford an apartment or therapy. I am so tired of being mistreated. And I want to be free, but I'm trapped in this hellhole. This thread is most likely dead by now, so I just wanted to get this out in the open, since I haven't really been able to speak to people about this for months now. I'm sincerely afraid that I'll never be able to become the man I want to be, because I'm too busy trying not to slip back into a depressed state. As long as I avoid doing anything slightly challenging, or thinking for too long, I can stay neutral. If anyone does read this, and knows of something I can do to get away, please let me know. Thank you. Edit. Thank you to everyone who has sent positivity my way over the past year or so. Update. I'm back at my dream college, hoping that this time, I can make it through. I seek therapy with a delightfully quirky Jewish lady, and having that stability there is so useful. It's going to be a long ride for me, and I don't know how my future will look, but I'm in so much better of a place than I was then. Seriously though, thank you again, all of you, for the support and the kind words. It became too much to respond to every person, but I appreciate everyone reaching out to me nonetheless. There was a girl who I had a crush on the moment I saw her on my college campus. She ended up dating a douchebag dude a few weeks later. I happened to end up sitting in a study room with him and a few mutual friends. He talked about how he didn't think she was that attractive and how he liked other girls. I wrote the girl an anonymous email using one of those websites telling her about the things I heard and how the guy was a dick. She ended up breaking up with him after she found out he was cheating. The girl is now my girlfriend of 6 months. She has no idea, and is sitting across from me in the library. I've never told anyone this before. Edit. We've now been together 9 months and are going strong. Edit number 2. It's our 1-year anniversary tomorrow. Edit number 3. I've gotten a number of requests for updates over the past few years. We're still together, going 3+ years strong, and she's finally moved in with me. Life is great. Edit number 4. Still going strong after 5 years. We've been living together in a big city and life is great. We've found things we're both really passionate about and can finish each other's sentences. I've always been a big believer of the just do it mindset, and this whole story is proof of it. Edit number 5. Still getting occasional PMs as of early 2019. Happy to say we are still together, 7.5 years later. We're living together in a big city and there's probably a proposal in the cards sometime soon. You never know where a simple email may take you. 2022 Edit. We got married during the pandemic. Okay, so this is a secret I've kept for nearly 20 years. During the summers when I was growing up, my parents would often leave my brother and I'm male, with our aunt and uncle who lived out in the country. It was great as they had 4 sons of ages close to ours, so we had a lot of fun doing kids stuff. One summer when I was 8, the oldest cousin was maybe 16. We somehow got talking and he asked me if I wanted to sleep in his room that night. He has the nicest room and bed, so I was all for it. Got into bed and he asked if he could touch my pee-pee. I was 8 and just thought it was okay, so I let him. He rubs it for a bit and then asks me to do the same to him. So I do. This progresses and eventually I'm sucking his cock. I think I knew this was wrong, so I said I didn't want to carry on. We stop and I go to sleep quite confused. I wake up and he hands me some money and tells me never to tell anyone about what happened. Next night he tries to do the same thing. But now all I care about is the money. So I do it. This carried on for 2 summers. Eventually I got old enough to realize it was quite wrong regardless of the money and stopped. I've not told anyone this. He's now married with 2 kids. I'm also married and we see them sometimes at family events. I don't have the balls to even try and talk to him about it. Hell, I'm not even sure what I'd say. I'm sure this will get buried, but just getting it off my chest makes me feel better. TLDR, I was a gay child hooker.